Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. From the kitchen to the couch, popular Wichita chef Rick Jeffrey went from running a successful restaurant to being too sick to cook a family meal until a liver transplant gave him new life and new hope. Here's Janine Kiesling with his story.
I keep getting warned that I got to watch my eating because I'm, being a professional chef.
Yeah.
I mean, food is all life is.
For years, hospital rooms replaced the kitchen for Rick Jeffrey. The popular Wichita chef was sidelined by non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Told at one point he was too sick for a transplant. But Rick fought back through rehab. In April, he was strong enough to return to the list. Then, just days later, the call came.
I got offered a liver, which is just unheard of, that can happen so fast. So it was pretty cool.
The surgery changed everything. Rick says he felt better the moment he woke up, and he's kept feeling better every day since. He built his reputation at Carlos O'Kelly's in Wichita, then as chef and co-owner of Red Beans Bayou Grill. He later launched Red Beans to Go during the pandemic. His health forced him to step away, but Rick is determined to get back to cooking and connecting.
I love to cook, and I love to bring people together around food, and it gives me a platform for being able to talk to them and tell them, what's been important to me and how they can make a difference in someone's life.
Rick credits his doctors, nurses, and care team with keeping him going, and even had them sign a photo of a liver to mark his journey.
You can really tell those that make a difference in that they really care about what's going on instead of just being a number.
Now he hopes his story reminds others how powerful organ donation can be.
We were just talking about writing a letter to the family, that guy that donated the liver, and what a big deal it had to be for them to say, go ahead and give my husband and his liver to this family, and it was unbelievable.
His wife Angie join us this morning from Wichita. So good to see you both. How are you? Having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, we're doing great. Thank you.
There you go. You're doing great.
Yep, everything is wonderful. We're getting better and better every day. There's been, lots of complications we've went through, but holy cow, it's been a great ride.
Holy cow, we love to hear that. I love your spirit. Looking good in your green and red this morning. So we're so
Thank you.
Anxious to hear your story, and we want to introduce in studio with us today. We have transplant hepatologist Dr. Ryan Taylor and transplant surgeon Dr. Clay King, both with the University of Kansas Health System. Great to have you both, and I'm sure it's great to see them.
It's so amazing. Oh boy, what a holiday gift just to see Rick smiling and doing well. What a blessing.
What's it like to see Dr. Taylor?
It's excellent. I can't tell you how much we love those, everybody at KU, and Dr. Taylor's just been a great coach for us and supporter and encouraging. And Dr. King is very cool doctor, and he's always been there to help me. I love seeing him at the hospital. It was a
cool
blast.
guy.
Yeah.
The cool doctor.
He got to remember he was pretty medicated when I was
Hey, whatever it takes,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Whatever it takes. So, Rick, I want to start a little bit with the story from your perspective here. What was life like? Take us back before the transplant. Just those years, especially those couple of years prior to the transplant.
Well, I felt fine for a long time, and then over regular doctor visits, they, saw that my enzymes in my liver were starting to not look good. And so after a while, I apparently, as my wife will contest, started behaving strangely. And it's just amazing how the liver can affect your whole body, especially your brain. And I would just forget things and not know what I was doing. And it just got really rough. And then we got hooked up with KU Med, and Dr. Taylor, and it was unbelievable the support we got to get through this.
And really, it's such a double whammy for patients like you, Rick, because you're sick, really sick, but you're also losing your livelihood at the same time. How were you able to stay positive?
Well, I call it the 3 F's: faith, family, and friends. It is seriously all about a support system. And I mean, we had it in spades. We really did. We were so blessed that we had our faith so strong and our friends and family that really held together. And to be honest, KU Med, they were just so supportive and encouraging that no matter what happened, they knew all the right answers and they knew what you needed and how to apply it to you. And it was just incredible.
Well, I have no doubt Angie was such a big part of this for you. Angie, how hard was this to see Rick live like this all that time before the transplant? How were you able to help get him through this?
It is so hard. It's so hard on so many levels. This is a tough disease as a family member to watch somebody you love. Rick got down to 120 pounds. He was so weak. He needed 24/7 care by the end. And the mental part of it is they don't know what they're doing. They don't remember. But one of the things I learned was that when somebody asks you, what can I do? Give them a task. Get that support system in place, even if it's just running Rick to a doctor's appointment so I could continue to work. We had people there for us, but this is such a hard disease. It takes everything the family's got and the patient has to get through it.
Dr. Taylor, tell us about Rick's diagnosis.
Yeah, so Rick had a disease called metabolic associated dysfunction steatotic liver disease, which is known in common language as fatty liver disease and is one of the most common diseases that we see. It's a top cause of liver transplant, and for patients who get severe cases of it can lead to very devastating outcomes like cirrhosis.
So what's happening inside Rick's liver that made transplant the best option? Or was it the only option?
It was really the only option he had. He was so sick, his body was kind of disintegrating in front of us, as he said. He lost a lot of weight, and one of the major issues that the liver does is help keep toxins out of the bloodstream that can affect the brain, and Rick had a really bad case of this, and this is called hepatic encephalopathy, and it's almost like living with dementia but comes intermittently, and so they never knew when Rick was going to have a good day or a bad day, and then some days you could wake up and be fine at breakfast, and by the end of the day you're in a coma because you're just so confused and having the symptoms from it. Gosh. So it's really devastating. It just takes a village, as the family said, to be successful and manage this.
Well, we have some video of a liver transplant and that we want to show you here. This is not Rick's surgery, but Dr. King, we should mention there's now more options to receive a liver transplant. Walk us through those options, because of course we recently launched a Living Liver program here at the health system, which is just really helping patients immensely.
Yeah, there for every happy story of Rick's, there are still dozens and dozens and even hundreds of people on the list that are waiting for a transplant that are still kind of taking the village to get through it all. And so for Rick, he was able to be sick enough that he was allocated a deceased donor liver, which is a whole liver graft from either brain dead or cardiac death donor, and that gift has him keeping going today. And for other patients that aren't as sick, really objectively with their labs, they can still live with the day-to-day, really the complications of liver disease and just not manifest a high enough score to get a liver like Rick did. So for those patients, we can offer potentially a living donor, which is half of a live donor's liver, and then see if that patient has somebody that will come forward, make sure that all the anatomy is right for it, and that it's going to be a safe operation for both parties, and then we can potentially move forward like that.
Hope we can stick with this video, because how long does a liver transplant take? And what's happening inside the operating room? And kind of take us inside.
So for Rick, his case, he came into the OR. We already had the whole donor liver, and first part of the operation is removing his, and that was one of the videos there at the was the removal of the whole liver, the diseased liver. That's the first half of the operation. The second half of the operation is sewing in the new liver and all those places where you just remove the old one. And so for a deceased donor, whole liver like Rick's, it can go anywhere from 2 hours to 6 hours, depending on how complicated it is. And then for a living donor, it's a little bit longer than that, because the donor operation is 4 or 5 hours, and then it's another couple hours after that for the recipient operation. So it's a full day for the entire team.
Rick, what was the moment like when you were told that you needed a liver transplant?
Well, it's just a shock. You never think it's going to be you that is the person that has all these medical problems or has any situation like that. And you can't believe it. Why me? What did I do? Did I live wrong, or did something happen to where it caused my liver to go? And it just scares you, and it's a shock.
I think it was so shocking to get him back on the list, because he was so weak. His kidneys were failing by then. And we got a call on Wednesday that he was back on the list, and on Saturday we went into surgery. So it was amazing.
It was a miracle.
It was quick, and it was a miracle. Angie, I would imagine you had so many questions as a partner going into this. What concerns did you have? What questions did you have for the doctors about the surgery ahead of time?
By the time we got to the surgery, we'd been with KU for 3 years. So we'd had the 3 or 4 day orientation as a family. Our daughter went. We knew this hospital backwards and forwards. We knew Dr. Taylor really well. And we didn't have any questions per se, because we were so well informed by KU.
They answered all the questions before we even asked them.
You have fears, and you just kind of say a prayer. But by the time we got to surgery, I wasn't worried. I knew he was in the surgeon's hands and in God's hands. And it was a mix of excitement, if that makes sense, after this waiting, and definitely a little bit tinged with a little bit of fear. The surgery went so smoothly, so that was a blessing.
Docs, talk to me about that. Is the word excitement something you get from patients from time to time? Excited about feeling better, excited about a better life?
Absolutely. This is their way to have a new start and all that. So it is. There's a little trepidation and fear about going through such a big procedure, but by the time someone's as sick as Rick, they see that this is going to be the future, and so there is anticipation and excitement.
Dr. King, your thoughts on that? This is such an intense surgery. It's major surgery, but an excitement, just like a window to a whole new path.
Yeah, patients when they come in are a mixture of emotions, and I would say most of them are pretty nervous, and it would be very odd to come in for a liver transplant and not be nervous. The patient's family has it the worst, because for Rick, he went to sleep relatively quickly, and then, depending on how long his operation takes, it feels very short for him and his family. It probably felt like a week. So when you come out and talk to patients' families after the operation went well, there's usually a collective sigh of relief that kind of fills the room with warm air. So we try to make sure that people on the list and who are coming in, that hope is really what kind of keeps them going through all the tough times that they have. Like Rick said, faith and hope and family and all those things. And so that culmination when the transplant's done, they're never out of the woods after a liver transplant. That's a lifelong thing they got to keep healthy. And so but that collective sigh of relief from the family when the family finally gets to see Rick awake and things like that, that's something that I never take for granted. That's an unbelievable part of my job.
Never gets old. Dr. Kayla, though, for patients like Rick, what are the biggest concerns right before and then right after the transplant?
So, for Rick, one of our biggest concerns was just, can his body go through this? He has one of the most resilient minds and personalities that I've met. He just kept on going and kept on fighting through everything, but sometimes the bodies just wear down, and we reach a point where it's not safe to do a transplant because you get so weak you can't get out of bed afterwards and walk. You are so malnourished. And so for us as a transplant team, we have a lot of discussion. When is a patient too sick for a transplant? And Rick got very close a couple times, and I know that was a big part of their journey. Is there's times sometimes we have to hit the pause button and let the patients get stronger or get through a medical speed bump so that they can be ready for transplant. because a liver transplant is one of the biggest operations you can ever get, and our patients coming into it are about as sick as you can be. So that's a very difficult combination, and I tip my cap to Dr. King and the surgeons that put these patients through such a big ordeal when they're so fragile in that operating room. They're very, very sick at the time of the transplant.
Well, be sure to ask your questions. You can use the chat on YouTube or Facebook. You can email the Medical News Network. That information is there on your screen. Rick, you said in your story that you felt better as soon as you woke up from the surgery. How has life improved since then?
Oh, it was immediate. As soon as I got out of bed, and I remember kind of sitting up and feeling, this thing across my belly and looking out the window, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. And I started to actually get up, and then, it finally hit me that, oh, okay, I just had a new liver. I can't do that. And it's, it's been a challenge, the recovery, but you just got to stay positive and go.
Rick, as a chef, I would imagine food, it's your life. How did liver disease change your relationship with food?
Well, it made me just try and focus on eating better than I had, what times I eat. And, to be honest, it made me like food even more, because it's so cool when you can bring people together and feed them, and now it's even more important to me that I try and do that.
Angie, as you look back, is there a moment that stands out kind of as a turning point when you knew that everything was going to be okay?
I think the moment we got the phone call at whatever time, 5 a.m. that morning, that he was going to be scheduled for surgery was, that was the moment I said, okay, we're going to get through this. And then it took about 3 months after the surgery for him to really start feeling better. And so I think about 3 months after recovery, I kind of felt, okay, this is going to be all right.
Dr. Taylor, this disease is really tied to lifestyle, certainly post-transplant. So how do you coach patients to protect their new organ moving forward through the rest of their life?
Absolutely. So it is a lifelong commitment to get a transplant, and we just try to encourage basic health principles and really spend time talking about diet and activity levels, making sure they're taking their medications. That's a huge part of it, is taking anti-rejection pills for the rest of their life, and so you have to make sure that you keep up with those and take those appropriately. And so it's a journey from start to finish, and sometimes our goals just change. At one point, we're just trying to have patients get as much nutrition as they can before transplant, and then after transplant, we sometimes have to reel it in a little bit, since patients feel good, get their appetite back, and some of the medicines can cause weight gain, so we have to navigate that.
What are some of the symptoms of this disease?
That's the scary thing with fatty liver disease. There's really not a lot of symptoms at all. And so many times patients only find out about it when they get an insurance blood test or get a routine physical, and that may tip the doctor off that something's off, because liver blood tests are high, and that starts the journey of getting an ultrasound and further workup, and then they end up seeing us sometimes if it's more significant.
Are you seeing younger people with this disease?
Unfortunately, we're seeing it even, I've diagnosed fatty liver cirrhosis even in high school students. And so we're just seeing this in such younger people. And I think it's a combination of just the diet that's out there, just high caloric foods in the American diet, and then combination of lack of activity, and then of course some genetics mixed into that.
Wow. How do you, just as you're saying that, it's just, I've got young kids. Are there changes that we need to start making in diets to?
Absolutely. You hear a lot of discussion about this, about processed foods and things like that. And so there is a focus on it, but it's, a day-to-day battle, because we all get busy. There's only so many hours in the day. Not everyone can have a great chef like Rick around to have a good, healthy meal. And so you have to really think about that. In families, this has to be a central part of their function.
Well, we bring it up. It seems like something we should know, but when we talk about eating well, but then we hear stories like this and we tie it to a real disease, and then there's a transplant involved, it really kind of brings it home to why we implement really good, healthy lifestyles and make those changes. Dr. King, overall, just from your standpoint, what makes and what means a successful transplant? What does that look like? What does a successful transplant mean to you?
It looks like a guy and his wife on a screen that are doing well, and I think
with their Christmas shirts on.
Yeah, it's people getting back to life, and that's the thing that I think is people ask, like, why would you do transplant and things like that. Is Rick wasn't himself. Angie didn't have her husband. The kids didn't have their dad. Their extended family didn't have him. And so the donor makes this gift, or the donor's family makes this gift, and now they have Rick back. And so what Dr. Taylor and I are we're shepherds of that gift, and the hero is the donor, and this is the outcome, and this is what we always want. And especially this time of year, thinking about being grateful for things and trying to better yourselves there's nothing more motivating than seeing a positive outcome like this. Continue to do what you're doing and see the good is coming from everything that we do here.
That's so great. Let's get to some questions from our viewers this morning. Chelsea wants to ask Rick when he knew that something was really wrong. Kind of what was that moment that made you go see the doctor first?
Well, I went to the doctor on a normal, yearly physical and did the blood work, and the doctor let me know that, there's a little of a bit of concern because of my enzymes, my liver seemed to be off. And so it's something we had to watch, but I really didn't see a lot of signs myself that I had noticed. Maybe a little more confusion started coming on, but my family, my workers that worked for me, that I'm, would see every day, noticed a change in my behavior. And I didn't necessarily notice that because you're not aware of that yourself. But boy, did they start telling me stories about the way I'd behave and think and misplace things and make pies in the middle of the night that I had no idea that I did. So it was definitely more noticed by the family than me.
Well, Angie, on that note, Carrie was wondering what you first noticed that indicated that there was something wrong with your husband.
A complete change in personality, 180. And I was so shocked by some of the things that were happening that I thought he had early onset of Alzheimer's or dementia. For instance, he couldn't figure out how to use a can opener one night on a can of soup, and he's a professional chef with, owning a bunch of restaurants. One time he left the house, went for a walk in the park, and couldn't figure out which house he lived in. He stood in front of our houses and tried to figure out which door he should go into. So those things started happening, and they were frightening. And you just don't know. You don't know what to think. And when they told me it was his liver, I just didn't even know. I had no idea that the liver could make you that
goofy.
That crazy.
That's one way to put it. Well, Jeremy wants to know, is there any kind of stopgap that can process your blood to keep it cleaner from toxins while you wait for a liver transplant, kind of like you do with a kidney transplant on dialysis?
There's been a lot of interest in that and some technology that we've used here at KU to help patients with that. Unfortunately, it just is not as good as the liver. The kidney has relatively focused functions where the liver does so many different things. And so it's been difficult for humans to replicate that and have really good technology to fix that.
Tim is curious if how common liver transplants are. How many does Dr. King perform on average, maybe in a month or so?
We average about 50 in the last 5 years, 50 a year, and so we're ahead of that this year. We beat that last year, so hopefully we'll be above 60 this year. Nationwide, 10 to 11,000 over the last couple of years, and so that number continues to rise each year. And just like Dr. Taylor was saying, more people are having liver disease at younger ages, and the need for transplant has gone up, and so the need for donors continues to rise.
Important to make that point. Ben wants to know, is fatty liver disease something that can be reversed if caught early?
Absolutely, and so that's where early detection can be very helpful, and so patients can make changes in their lifestyle, and the liver is one of the best organs in regenerating itself, and that's one of the things that is so enthralling to me about liver disease is how the liver can fix itself, and so absolutely, if we catch it early, we can make a difference.
Ruth Ellen wants to know what's in the anti-rejection medication.
So we use a combination of medications, but over the long term, the majority of patients are on a medication called tacrolimus, also known as Prograf, and so that's a medicine that weakens your immune system to allow it to tolerate the new liver.
All right. Ryan wants to know what Rick would tell someone who's scared about getting a liver transplant. What would you want folks to know?
Well, there's nothing that you can say that will not make people scared. You're going to be scared. I mean, your life is on the line, and what's even scarier is that if you don't get a liver, you know that there's only one option: is you will not live. And you don't have to be scared once you learn about KU and all their support and how kind and caring they are, and they know exactly what to do. Your friends and family are also the huge part of it. You've got to have a support system, and that gives you the, encouragement to know that there's going to be a positive outcome.
Greg wants to know about Rick's kidneys failing. Is that a common side effect, and do those get better?
So there's a condition called hepatorenal syndrome where at the very last stages of liver failure, patients' kidneys can start to fail. And so it's not uncommon for patients to end up developing kidney failure and needing dialysis for a short period. And sometimes even patients need kidney transplants too at the time of liver transplant.
All right, Angie has a question for Angie and Rick. What are some things that you have been able to enjoy doing with family that you haven't been able to do in quite a while?
Well, our grandson TJ was born right at COVID, which is when this started, and he's now 6. And he was so used to going to the hospital to visit his papa that now as a family, we get to do things. And, he cooks with, he cooks with TJ. Every little thing is important to us now. So even things that other families may not think is a big deal, we celebrate. We're having s'mores around our fire pit in a few days with our grandsons. And so that's really, I think.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It's a huge deal.
And we got to travel last weekend with our family and visit some of our family in Branson and just enjoy life. Rick's recovering. It's a long recovery, so certainly we're not doing cartwheels, but he can, he's back cooking, and family and neighbors enjoy that. So,
yeah, we love it.
Well, I think what we hear you saying is you're enjoying the simple things in life. So that's all that matters. The things that sometimes we can take for granted. And it's so nice to hear. Kevin is from Wichita and remembers Rick from Carlos O'Kelly's. He wants to know if you're back in a restaurant.
I'm not yet. We still are not quite healthy enough to get back on my feet for the length of time that I need to be to run a restaurant. And I hope to get the Red Beans to go back up and running maybe, in a year, but it just depends on how my recovery goes. It is a long process, and I sure hope to, because I love the restaurant business. I love cooking for people.
Well, you should know your fans miss you. So get better.
That's good. We love our fans.
They miss you. They miss your cooking, it sounds like. So you two are just such a delight. We're so happy that you've been able to join us today. Angie, I want to start with you. What's the big takeaway from your story? What do you want people to know?
I think the big takeaway is this is hard. This is probably going to be the hardest thing anybody has to do in their life, whether you're supporting a spouse or you're going through it. And we've said it before, we're so grateful for the donors. So check the box on your driver's license that says you'll donate organs. But again, it goes back to faith and our support system. Build that early in your journey, and it is a journey, and you just have to keep hoping. You can't let fear enter. You have to keep hoping and have faith.
Great message. Rick, what is your takeaway?
Oh, it's, with our faith in God and seeing the help and support that you get from your friends at KU. Oh my gosh, the people we met at KU and that would take care of us, and they take care of both of us, Angie and my daughter and me and all of our friends that would come visit, and it's just, I mean, the people that support you is unbelievable, and KU is just unreal how good they take care of you and how much they care, and you can really tell they care. It's a big deal.
And we're not being paid by KU to say that.
No, you are not. And we are just so happy that you're doing well. Jean, one of our viewers, just wrote in, it's just a great story of hope. And I think no truer words. So we just appreciate you so much sharing, and we just want you to have a great holiday with your family. Dr. King, what's
Thank
the big
you.
takeaway?
I think the takeaway is what Angie and Rick are talking about is just you're never guaranteed tomorrow. Take advantage of today. Appreciate the time you get with your family around the holidays if you get it, and if you don't, make somebody else's day. It takes nothing to be kind to one another. There's a lot of negativity, and so don't be part of that negativity. Just continue to be like Rick and, be a shining light for everybody that wants him back and have his red beans back in Wichita. So I think the main thing is just be good to one another. That takes nothing.
This is the last show we're doing before we go on our hiatus, before we come back in February, and I can't think of a better way to kind of wrap up before we go on to the holidays and start the new year, and just what a great message. And Dr. Taylor, what do you want the big takeaway to be?
I think it's just recognizing the generosity of the donor and all of this that would not happen without that gift. And, some of these are dark days sometimes when families have to make these decisions, but there is truly joy and happiness and life that comes from those decisions. So we just can't thank our donors enough for these special gifts to allow us to help patients like Rick get a second chance.
Well, we want to thank all of our guests for being with us today. All of our viewers, just have a great day and have a great weekend. And we want to wish you all a great, happy holidays. And in fact, we are going to leave you with Doctor's Notes, an a cappella group of medical students from the University of Kansas Medical Center.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells chime, jingle bells chime. Dancing and praising the jingle bells square. In the frosty air, what a bright time! It's the right time to rock the night away. Jingle bell time, it's a swell time to go riding in a one-horse sleigh. Giddy up, jingle bells, pick up your feet, jingle around the block. Mix and mingle and a jingle in the beat. That's the jingle bell rock.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now everywhere podcasts are available.